Alright, what up YouTube? This is the start of my how to play 2x KO guide. Before we get into everything, I just want to point out that there is dual play in this game. So I'll be explaining how to do dual play later in the video. As well as, for those of you that don't care about learning the game right now, and you just want to hit button good, skip to the timestamp below. Or if you're also looking for something specific, say how tagging works, right, offense, defense, you can also just use the timestamps or the chapters below. The purpose of this video is to introduce to those of you that have never or barely played a fighting game on how to play the game, as I'll be covering everything the game will throw at you, trying to make it as simple as possible to understand. Even if you have fighting game experience, I still recommend checking out what I discuss and have to say about the game. A lot is going on. So, considering I have over a decade of experience in this field, I hope I can share my knowledge and experience with y'all. I'm Jonathan, or Cloud805 as I'm known in the community, as some of you may know. What I hope to accomplish by the end of this video is to give you all the resources to understand what exactly is going on in the game. Fighting games can be confusing, but if I've done my job correctly, by the end of this video, you'll know what's happening on screen. Find a style that'll suit you, know how to play with your duo, and want to keep expanding your knowledge of the game well past this introduction. Also, if you're confused or anything, or don't understand something, please post in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer each question, or come to my stream, twitch.tv/cloud_805, to ask anything. I'll be streaming every day of the alpha. What's the objective of 2xKO? It's simple. Just lower your opponent's health bar before they lower yours to 0. Prior to getting into playing the game, let's talk about the UI real fast. These big green bars at the top is your life bar. To win, you must deplete your opponent's health before they deplete yours. Each character you play has their own health bar you have to manage. When you get hit, you'll be left with some recovery gray life, as you can see on the bot here. The red health is what you lost, the gray health is what you can recover by tagging out. I've taken a bit of damage, I'm tagging out Echo, and as you can see, his health is coming back a little slow, but it's doing its best. Now, what's the glowing bar below the health? You know, the green stuff that's just flashing a little bit. This is your burst. So when you're getting hit or in a combo, you want to hit S1 and your tag button, or S2 and your tag button. This is your combo breaker. This is a very crucial resource. Make sure you use it wisely, as you only get 1 per round? Maybe 2, just at most you might get 3 bursts in a round, but I think 2. Could be wrong though. Now, if you look at the character portraits, you'll see assist ready. It is tag button plus a direction. This literally just means your assist is ready to be called. So you can do it by doing forward assist. You can do it by doing back assist or back tag to get 2 different assists. And there's also a little bit of a cooldown to it, as you can see on the character portrait. Now, at the very bottom of the screen, each character has their own individual meter. Each character can get a maximum of 3 bars, as there's multiple ways to use it. I'll save that for when I talk about system mechanics. Lastly, for UI, is just the round count. It's 2 rounds per game. You can see it above the fuse icon. It's kind of hard. Let me back up a little bit. Ah, there you go. Oh, I missed the fuses. Right, sorry. What does that little guy breakdancing over there mean? That means it's your fuse. What do those little sonic rings mean on the other team? That is pulse. That means you can just auto combo by mashing buttons. So those are your fuses. There's 5 different fuses, but I'll get into them later. Alright, now, where do we start? First and foremost, pick a character. You think that looks cool. Yes, it's a team game, but you can learn the game for the most part with just 1 character for now. Doesn't matter if they're hard to play, as long as you're having fun. Learning is what's the most important thing here. Now let's pick your fuse. Oh, wait, let me pick my character actually. Wait, we got the costume already? No shot. What? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know they were going to give us the costume off rip. Anyways, let's pick our fuse now, right? I want to use freestyle, so I'm going to go with freestyle, but you can use whatever you want. Doesn't matter what people tell you. And now, you know, while we're here, let me break down what each fuse does. So what freestyle does is it lets you tag twice. That's it. This is the strongest fuse in the game. More on that later. Fury, it just gives you 40. It gives you more damage when you're below 40% health, as well as a special dash cancel. Pulse, you just do auto combos by mashing a button. If you're a beginner, this is perfect for you. 2 times assist, you get 2 assist calls. Very simple, very easy to understand. You can use back assist, forward assist before you tag. And then double down. The big thing about double down is you get double supers, right? And there's a secret to double down that is not explained here, so I'll show it to you. But yes, you could do a super with one character and then super with your next character. Okay, so here's a visual look of double down, just to give you an idea of what it looks normally. You can super with one character and then you super with another character. You do your super input twice, right? And you can choose whichever one you want. Now, the hidden mechanic that they don't explain to you, just to cover this one specific thing about this fuse real quick, is when you do a super with your character out, you can immediately tag into them. You can't do this with other fuses, so this is a hidden mechanic that they don't tell you. Maybe I'll make a hidden mechanic video. If you guys are into that, let me know in the comments below. But moving on. Now, when it comes to the button notations and the button layout, I recommend keeping the basic layout the game gives you, so you can just learn with the basic configuration, and then you can customize it like I have when you want to find something new and experiment, but just get used to the regular buttons at first. Now, the attack buttons go in an ascending order. You have light, medium, heavy attack, special 1, special 2. These all vary from character to character. And your attack buttons also change depending on if you're in the air, standing, or crouching. So this is your crouching light, this is your standing light. Two different buttons, right, that serve two different purposes. This goes low, this is a mid. Now, the last important button is your assist/tag button. You can do forward, you can do back, or if you do neutral, it gives you a tag launcher, which tags into your other character and lets you get a combo extension. Now, let's start with basic movement. Moving around is simple enough. Just like in any game, you can go forward, back, crouch, and jump. For a little bit of clarity, I turned on input display. As you can see, it is tracking what I'm doing. Down, back, down, down, forward, forward, light, medium, heavy. You get it. The input display shows what I'm hitting, and it gives you guys a visual reference to understand what I'm doing here. Now, I give you the regular left, right, down, up directions, but there's also the in-between diagonals, right? Down, back, down, forward, and up, back. This is going to matter. The reason why it's imperative to know your diagonals is your launcher is down, forward, heavy. Other characters have other diagonal moves. That's for you to figure out on a character-to-character basis. Or to watch my character guides when they come out, because those are going to come out soon. I got one for each character. I made a script for each one. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about the input directions is your stance matters when it comes to blocking. I'll get more on this later, but there's a difference between holding back and down back when your opponent attacks you. Alright, now that we talked about movement, what is the basic combo structure in this game? I'm going to go more in depth on this later, and I have a whole video dedicated to this. But the simple ABC or magic series that we like to call it is light, medium, heavy, and then into a special. Make sure you do it fast enough to combo, right? And then after the special, you would go... Oh, she died. Sorry, anyways, before I was rudely interrupted, after this special, you would go into a super. Basic for every character in the game, or almost every character. Some of them may have a move that launches them too far, but you'll come to learn that within seconds. Now, once you get the hang of the basic combo structure, you can then go and experiment with more advanced combos. You know, a simple combo, oh, I dropped it, but you get the point. Simple, breaks out of the regular ABC combo structure. Just practice, get a feel for it. Now that you got a feel for it, we can move on to blocking. The way you block in this game is by holding back when being attacked, or down back. Let me turn this on 1 second real quick. The reason you want to hold down back on some of these moves is that, thank you, I have to show that this is a low. If you do not block low, you will get hit. This may seem obvious, but I have to make sure you guys know. You block by holding the opposite direction of your opponent. You cannot block her low attack by holding down forward. It has to be away from them. So just remember that. Small detail, very important. Now let's talk about the specifics of each attack type and how to block them, as there's 3 different ones: overheads, middle hits, and lows. Overheads are moves that must be blocked standing, like a jumping. The easiest way to distinguish what an overhead is when someone leaves the ground. Here, if I block low, I get hit. So make sure when somebody jumps at you or does an overhead attack, or a high as it's also known, that you block standing. You don't want to get caught blocking low and then you just explode. Middle hits, or mids, can be blocked standing or crouching. Now, most mids are usually done when on the ground. Now, some air moves are mids, such as Yasuo's S2, this is a mid, right? Even though it's in the air, you can block it standing or crouching, but that move's never going to hit you crouching. But just to get my point across, right? Or with Ahri, her down S2 is also a mid. This is not an overhead. Not every air approach is an overhead, and the big way to distinguish that is that specials. Unless it's a special designed to be an overhead, but that's a whole nother conversation.
If you do check the command list, it will specify if the move is a low or an overhead. If it doesn't specify, then it's most likely a mid.
Now, lows. We talked about this earlier, but just to talk about it a little bit more, you have to block them crouching. The easiest way to distinguish when your opponent goes for a low is when they're crouching on the ground. Right, that's the easiest way to know when your opponent's going to go for a low. Now, not every crouching attack is low hitting, such as Ahri's down heavy. This is her anti-air, which I will discuss later. Now, there's an exception to the rule of these types of blocking. That's when you're in the air. When you block something in the air, you don't have to worry about a high block or low block. Just imagine every hit is a middle hit. But that's only when you're in the air. When you're on the ground, again, different story, but when you're in the air, you don't have to switch your blocking between high and low. This is a good time to talk about moves that cannot be blocked, such as a regular grab, which is done by medium and heavy at the same time. You can set a macro button for this when you go to your button configuration. Another unblockable move are command grabs, like Braum's down S1. This is so cool, dude. Look, he just taps him up! Tell me that's not sick. Now, regular throws can be teched by doing throw or medium heavy when your opponent tries to grab you. This is very important to know. Command grabs cannot be throw teched. They're command grabs. They have special properties behind them. They are very punishable on whiff, so that's just something to keep in mind. Now, you're probably wondering, how do I get away from a command grab? Well, I'm glad you asked. So as soon as I set this bot setting to jump, you'll avoid command grabs by jumping. So if you think your opponent's going to command grab you, you have to input up. I caught his landing frames, but that's like for a super advanced video. We're not going to talk about landing frames here. Alright, you know the basics of the basics now. Your buttons, your movement, grabs, attacks, all that stuff. Now let's talk about the system mechanics. Buckle up, lads. Because there's quite a few of these. Take it slow. Get used to them. You have plenty of time. I'll take you and guide you through every step. Let's talk about projectile durability. In this game, not all projectiles have the same strength level. For example, Echo's Time Winder, not the super one as he has a super version of this, but we'll get into that later, will lose to Braum's S1 when he has Unbreakable, right? Because it's a buff, it's a special property behind it. So it's going to be stronger than most projectiles in this game. Now let's talk about movement options. The basic movement options besides moving back and forward is dashing. Alright. You can run if you just hold your dash button. You can run forward. Very simple. You don't have to worry about practicing wave dashing when moving forward. Just hold the dash button. And it's just as good. You can also tap forward or back to dash, but I highly recommend learning how to use the dash buttons once you reach a certain level, especially when you want to learn how to wave dash, as it's a better form of movement. Something very important to note is not all characters will have the same movement speed when it comes to dashing. Braum will be much slower. Look at this. My man, he's doing his best, but he's not going anywhere. As well as some characters, it's just better to let their backdash fully rock instead of to crouch cancel it. As you can see, Braum moves a little bit further, a little bit faster, if you let the dash rock instead of canceling it with a crouch or tapping down. Like just look at Yasuo in comparison, right? He's much faster. And the general rule of thumb for movement is bigger characters will typically move slower than the smaller characters. That's just how it is. That's how it's always been, and that's how it will always be. So if you're going to play a bigger character, just keep in mind your movement options may not be as strong, but you have other things to make up for the lack of. This game has a couple of different types of jumps. You can jump backwards, straight up, or neutral as we like to call it, and forward. This can all be amplified by doing a super jump. To do this, you have to hit down before jumping. As you can see, Yasuo goes a little bit higher. He goes a little bit further. This may not seem like much at first, glance, but this could mean the world when it comes to moving around an opponent, especially if you have some air options to throw with it. A lot of these you want to cover with an assist, but again, any little difference that you could put in your gameplay will always help. Alright, so let's talk about grabs a bit. I mentioned grabs earlier, but I should add that you can also grab in the air, and you can also tech in the air, as you can see. Echo teched it, fully invincible on the way down, so there's no mind games after you tech a throw in the air. Both characters land neutral. Very important to remember this. Now, because there's air grabs, that means there will eventually be air command grabs that you cannot tech. There is no air command grab in the game currently, but there will be in the future. So just keep this little footnote in mind. Now we're going to talk about anti-airs. If your opponent keeps jumping at you, each character has a universal option to stop that as long as you time it correctly, which is down heavy. This is your anti-air. Every character has this, but not every character's anti-air is designed the same. The whole purpose of the anti-air is to stop jump-ins. As you can see, Echo jumped at me. I did my anti-air. I did not get hit. These moves have what we call upper body invulnerability, or in this game I think your full body is invulnerable to jump-ins. I'm not 100% sure. I may look at the frame data for this later, but anyways, yeah, down heavy. This move right here is to shut down jump-ins, and then you can get a combo off of it once you get better at it and you learn your character. Let's talk about chargeable moves now. Every character can charge their stand heavy. It's very important to know, right? What it does is it gives you advantage. You can dash out of it. Very strong to know. You have to be aware. You can also tell when somebody charges a move as they will flash red. This is not to say that every heavy move can be charged. Your anti-air down heavy cannot be charged. I believe no character can charge their anti-air. I could be wrong. It is an alpha. Please forgive me. Echo can charge his down forward heavy, which when not charged is his launcher. Now, there are certain specials that can also be charged. Braum can charge his held S2. This is the charge version. As you can tell, it is signified by a quick red flash. And the non-charge version also looks completely different. Yes, you can also charge your jump moves, your jump heavy moves, as indicated by the red flash. The last big thing to note about this is when you hit a charged heavy move, your opponent is locked out of their defensive options, which I'll get into later, but essentially it's push, block, burst, and retreating guard. They cannot do any of that because they're in a staggered state. That sums it up for charge attacks. Now, let's talk about chip damage. What is chip damage? If you pay attention to Echo's health bar, he slightly loses health even when blocking. Not every move in this game will cause chip damage. Well, except for Darius Bleed, but again, we'll go into detail at a separate time. Now, this may not seem like much at first, but you can actually take the round and finish the character with chip damage. So if your opponent's low on health, use a chip move to chip them out. Yes, we call it chip. Why do we call it chip? I have no idea. Okay. So remember, if you're at no health, you're stuck blocking, you can get chipped out. It could just be a checkmate situation. One final show. Please make sure to like, sub, comment, because it really does help out me and my team. All right, back to the... Now, let's talk about supers and super meter, as well as utility supers, as supers and utility supers are separate things. What is a super and a utility super? Well, supers are, well, super moves that require at least 1 bar of meter to perform. Her level 1 super. The way to do a super is by doing down, down, S1, down, down, S2. There's a stronger version of supers that everybody has that is done by doing down, down, S1 plus S2 at the same time. This costs 2 bars of meter. Most of these supers you'll be doing at the end of combos to do damage, as that's their main purpose, right? Like Yasuo super, it's just damage ender, right? You use it for damage. There's no other motive or ulterior reason. A utility super, just as a regular super, costs 1 bar of meter to use. However, instead of going for damage, you're using it to help you get to your opponent or to clear some space. By doing Ari's down down S1 super and holding down S1 during it, it becomes a boomerang. If you don't hold it down, you just use it for damage. It's not going to come back to you. It's just used for damage. I believe Echo also has 2 utility supers. his special time winder and his install. But yeah, so there's a time and place. You'll figure out when to use your utility super, right? I believe even if you don't have double down, you could still, let me see. You could still tag, right? If you don't have double down fuse, you can still tag. Albeit much later, you still can tag and take up some space. So figure out what way works best for you. Experiment with it and let me know how it goes. Now let's get into the tag mechanic. What is tag? Tag is how you swap from one character to the other. There are quite a few ways to tag in this game. You can hold the tag button to switch characters. It's a safe way to do it. You can call an assist and then tag. Doesn't matter what assist you use, you can always tag as long as the character is out on the field. The character doesn't even need to finish their assist to tag. The other way to bring in your teammate is by doing tag launcher. So you would want to do a combo and then hit your tag button without holding a direction. This is another way to bring in your teammate, a safe way to do it, as well to extend your combos. Now, I mentioned this when it came to tagging, but I just want to reiterate about calling an assist. This is a team game. You can call assist to help you in the neutral. There's two different types of assists, as mentioned. Back assist, which will give you 1 assist, and then there's also forward assist. We gotta wait for Ari to come back here. Boom. Now, there's also another little secret mechanic, which let me do this so she can come out faster. You can hold down your assist button. You can do back or forward, and by holding it down, your assist runs out to cover some ground. I do want to state that some characters cannot move forward. Braum is a special exception to this, but this makes more sense since this is a armored assist. Now, another thing you have to keep in mind is that when you call your assist and they run at your opponent, you have to be very careful. The reason being that your opponent can hit them and beat them up. They can even take the character. So it's not a free get in for free card. You have to be very wary that because they can get hit, they can use a super on them, whatever it takes to finish the character, you know. Last thing I want to talk about assists here is that they are on a 3-second cooldown. Normally it's a 3-second cooldown, right? But with freestyle, if you tag and then tag back, it's a 6-second cooldown. This is the only fuse that does that. So if you ever wonder why your assist took twice as long and you're playing freestyle, this is why. Another way that you can tag out your partner is with the double down fuse by doing double super. As well as, you know, this is part of the hidden mechanic of double down, which I might have explained earlier. It's a long video, I forgot. Is when you have your character out and you have double down, you can do the super, and before the super even comes out, you could immediately tag. So you can see why situations like this will be very tricky to deal with. You do a good projectile super, you tag into whoever after that, and then the party starts. Now, here's the last secret tag option that you can do after you burst. You can burst and then tag immediately, as long as your burst hits. I want to talk about knockdowns and tech options now. You shouldn't worry too much about this early on, but I want to explain it anyway. So the way you tech in this game is you hold the button when you're getting comboed. So make sure you're always holding a button to tech. That's at least when it comes to air teching. Now there's also the options when you're knocked on the ground. There is quick rise by, I believe, hitting a button as soon as you land or holding a button. It's a little hard to test right now because a lot of options in the game hard knockdown, which I'll explain soon. You can also quick back rise by holding back and then teching. And then if you don't hit anything when you get knocked down, you wake up a little bit slower. And when you do tech with a button, you'll hear a chime when that happens. The last tech option, or the lack of, I should say, that we have is hard knockdown, which is indicated on the bottom left. You can't do any tech option here. You're forced to wake up the same way every time. Just up. You saw I hit buttons, I mashed, I just had to wake up normally at the mercy of my opponent. That is a hard knockdown that will always give you the same wake up every time. Now it's time to talk about burst in detail. The way to burst is by doing any special button into your tag button at the same time. It doesn't matter if it's S1, it doesn't matter if it's S2, it just needs to be a special button into tag. Personal, you know, video maker comment. Yeah, burst, very important on how you use this. You only get one, maybe, I think you get 2%, maybe 3 at most. You get 2 for sure. You might get a third one. So if this gets blocked or baited, you're just gonna have to deal with every single combo that comes afterwards. Now I need to show you what happens when your burst gets blocked. If your burst gets blocked, the opponent gets a free punish on you. It's very important to know when to burst. I may make a when to burst or guaranteed burst video if you guys would like to see that, because I think it's very important to know when to burst, as there's guaranteed moments to burst in any game. So if you want to see that, let me know in the comments below. You know, it'll be a nice video. It'll be very educational. Even if your character is dead, you no longer have your partner, you can still burst. Oddly enough, I think this is great to have, but you can also still be baited. So again, be careful when you burst, but you still have the option even if you're solo and flying by yourself. Now, for our other defensive options, we talk about burst, but we also have more than just that. We have retreating guard, which costs no meter to do. It is done by holding back when you're blocking. I believe even down back. Yeah, even when you're crouch blocking and you hit light medium at the same time, or if you have a dedicated dash button, you can hit that as well. This gives you retreating guard. It gives you a little bit of meter. Here's a quick example of retreating guard giving me some meter. It's about 10% every time you do. Now, the other option we have while blocking is push block. This requires a bar of meter, but it is done by doing forward plus your dash button at the same time. It sends the opponent all the way to the other side of the screen. It's very important to use so you don't have to deal with any shenanigans. A very important detail when using retreating guard, it is susceptible to a low. You cannot block lows when you're retreating guard. And you can block overheads, you can block mids, you cannot block a low. So be careful not to get baited. Or on the other hand, you can bait your opponent when they try to get retreating guard. It is very important, or imperative as I would like to say, to know that you cannot use these defensive options in the air. As you saw, I was mashing retreating guard, I was mashing push block. You have no defensive options in the air except for burst. That is it. This could be changed in the future. Only time will tell. Another defensive option that you have in this game, when you get knocked down, if you hold one of your S buttons, you wake up with a smaller version of burst. It would be best to keep in mind that your opponent can block this and then punish you afterwards. So it is a gamble, it is a risk. Our next defensive option is parry. There is high parry and there is low parry. These do cost 1 bar of meter to use, and I will explain the differences between the two. High parry parries high hitting moves or overheads and mids. Then we have low parry, which only parries lows. So here's a good example. Boom, you have to guess if your opponent is going to do a low or a mid or a high. Depending on the situation, you can probably have a good guess. Now, what happens if you do a high parry during a low hitting move? You get hit. Same thing for when you do a low parry and you get hit by a high or a mid. It's a gamble, but the reward is very strong, as 1, you get your meter back, and 2, you get a free punish. Well, I wouldn't say free because you're taking the risk, but you get the point. Use this move when your opponent is charging a heavy. Gives you time to react, or if they're doing something else that's super obvious. You can also parry supers. Awesome enough. So don't think it's only regular moves. Boom! Oh, beautiful. It also avoids chip. So if your opponent is doing, let's say, a projectile, let me take out a projectile character 1 sec. All right. Now, as I was saying, you can use parry to avoid chip. You gotta parry multiple hits? Sorry, I was just a little bewildered there that you have to parry multiple hits. As you saw that avoided chip, I may have got hit, but you got the point. It doesn't pull you. Okay, wow, that's so interesting. That's actually kind of cool, but it's going to be a little bit difficult for the more beginner players. But as you saw, it avoided chip until I messed up, and then I got punished for it. But yes, use parry to avoid chip from projectiles and supers, and you still get your meter back even if you parry a projectile. As if Chrome goes back and slows it down on the super, you'll see my meter being refunded. The most universal way to beat parry is either by grabbing it or just baiting it. Your opponent parries and then you just get the punish afterwards. Those are the two easiest ways to beat parry. You have the 50% chance if you do a high or low strike, but you could also just wait it out or throw it. Now, let's move on to 2x KO's comboable states and combos. 2x KO uses chain system, which means you could do a stand light into crouching light, stand medium into crouching medium. But they also use magic series, which means you can do light, medium, heavy into special. So these are the comboable states. Outside of the regular hits, what do we have? Well, one, we have on the ground hits. So as you can see, Echo was in a hard knockdown situation. Some characters can't really get anything off of a hard knockdown outside of super specific situations. So you can get one hit and then they become invincible, indicated by the white line there. If you have an OTG like Yasuo, you can use your OTG and then get a combo off of it. If I was good, I would be able to land this. As you saw, I could have done more. I could have jumped up, whatever, right? Off of a hard knockdown, if you have an OTGable move that juggles them off the floor, you can keep combos going as long as hit stun will permit. Then we have wall bounces. What is a wall bounce? It's literally a wall bounce. The character will bounce off the wall. That is another comboable state that you can put your opponent. Then we have ground bounces in the game, which, just as the name sounds, bounces them off the ground. These are your comboable states. There is one more. I believe there is one more. There might be more secret ones that I don't know about. That is the slump state. What the slump state is, just imagine. Oh, wow. That doesn't work. You see how he's laying on the ground there? That is you being in the slump state. You can get a combo off of this if you are close enough. It may look a little weird because he looks like he's waking up, but yes, that is another comboable state in this game. The one thing you have to keep in mind is you only get one of these per combo, but there is a workaround to this. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, so the workaround to this is by using tag launcher. I'm going to use my slump state. I'm going to tag Ari in, right? And I put you in a slump state again. Tagging resets wall bounces, ground bounces, and slump states, as I showed you. Now, if something happens, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe you only get one ground bounce. Maybe you only get, I should say, maybe you can only get one ground bounce or slump state. But I believe you can get all three and then reset it, as I just showed you right now. Again, alpha. Don't know everything just yet, but from what I've practiced, that's how it works. Some characters may have their own unique comboable states. Braum can literally freeze you. Echo can freeze you in time if Time Winder hits late enough. If it hits too early, you get a little bit of a juggle, but it's not as strong as freezing the opponent in time. Now let's talk about this game's comeback mechanic. Last Stand. Last Stand is this game's universal comeback mechanic. How do you activate it? Your character has to be dead for one, and then your character that's still alive has to have 50% or less health. Once you have both of those things done, when you hit your assist button, they do their super. This is Echo's Time Winder super. It is on a 10-second cooldown once you use it. So make sure you use it at the correct time and place, as 10 seconds by yourself, it's hard. It's going to be hard to manage, especially if your opponent has both his characters alive. And just to add, it may seem obvious, but you can parry the super, right? You can parry supers on point, you can parry the last stands. Nothing has changed with parry. If it's a physical hit, parry is going to work, as long as it's the right parry. Now let's talk about duo play. We've gone through all the basics of the game, right? Moves, jumping, blocking, all that stuff. But let's talk about duo play. What are the differences about duo play? All right. If you are the second character, you're the one that controls the assist. Now, I don't have a second player with me, but I can still explain it to you. Your partner, your assist player, will control both assists. They will also control the burst. It is very pivotal that you and your duo talk to each other, communicate. When do you want an assist call? When do you want them to burst? When to tag in? Who tags in, I should say. The person who's on point chooses when to tag in. The second character or player does assist calls and does the burst. The point character, when you're on the screen, tells you, hey, I'm gonna tag you in. They hit tag, you follow up. Now, a way for the point character to force their duo in is by tag launcher, as it will always have you come in as long as you're not an assist out on the field. If you're out on the field when you're called, you do not tag into them. Very important detail. Now, I believe when it comes to using double down with your partner, you have to do your own supers. Your partner has to do their own down down S1 or down down S2 or down down S1 plus S2 super. So it is not up to the point character. Make sure you know that. Don't be caught with your hand in the cookie jar like, oh, I leveled 1, now I'm going to do level 2. No, your teammate has to do it. I believe that is it for the differences when it comes to duo play. I don't think I'm missing anything, but if I am, please let me know in the comments. If you skipped ahead to this part, you're the person that doesn't care about how to play the game and all that stuff. You want to learn how to play the game now by mashing the button. Very good. Let me explain that to you. Let's talk about the pulse fuse, or the sonic rings as I like to call it. But listen, hear me out. I know you want to just hit buttons to feel great about it, but let me at least teach you what buttons to hit, right? As there's 3 different buttons, light, medium, heavy, and who to mash them with. First off, pick Darius. Then pick pulse. Those are the first 2 things you must do. Darius is probably the best button masher in the game right now. I'm gonna be real with you. Second character can be whoever, right? Now that you've done both those things, here's what the light fuse looks like, right? I'm mashing light. As you can see, I'm mashing light. Decent combo. You got no supers. Alright, you got some nice damage. It was a good combo. Now, here's your medium fuse. It ends in level 1. Even more damage. Now, for heavy. This is the heavy fuse. It ends in the level 2. You get a ton of damage. But what if I told you you could mash these together? What do I mean by that? This combo is done by mashing light twice, medium once, and then heavy for the rest of it, right? 8 hits versus... Whoa! Yo, the bug? Okay, cool! If you reset during the level 2, you get that visual bug. Anyways, before the distraction, if you just mash heavy, you only get 6 hits, right? As opposed to 8. Now, you cannot go in reverse order. You cannot do heavy to medium. You cannot do medium to light. Now, if you ever want to learn the game a little bit more, but you still want to use pulse, that's fine. You can still do regular combos even with the pulse fuse. Oh, that dropped. That's besides the point. You can still do regular combos even if you're using pulse. But once you want to take off, you know, the little bit of help the game gives you, you can switch to another. Remember, there's no wrong way to learn the game when you're first learning it. Go out there, have fun with it. Who cares if somebody's like, you're playing Fuse? No, you're playing the game your way. Play it how you want to play it. Whatever brings you fun and enjoyment. And if you want to dive down and learn it on a deeper level, hey, you have this entire guide to work with. So go out there, have fun. Okay, so here's a tip, right? I'm gonna give you guys a couple tips, okay? So you can set macros for push blocks, for throws, right? Your dash button is also your push block button, okay? This is a 6-button fighter, so you must have these 6 buttons right here registered, and then you can set macros afterwards, right? Your dash, throw, parry macro. I would recommend this for people who have trouble hitting 2 buttons at the same time. It's a thing. Don't feel bad. That's why we have these macros in place for you. Now, here's a little bit of a dashing tip. I believe I went over this briefly earlier, but here's a little bit more in-depth detail. Yeah, by hitting down when you're dashing, whether you use the dash macro or not, right, you could move faster. Some characters don't move faster, like Darius. It's better to let his whole dash rock and then find a rhythm for it. but on his forward dash, crouch canceling it. Even though he's not crouching here, you can see it on my input display that I am crouching, even though it's not showing. This is a little bit faster movement option for some characters, not every character. It is more so if you want to dive deeper into the FGC or just understand what they're talking about or we're talking about. FGC Glossary is a great website that teaches you the lingo of fighting games. What does neutral mean? What does a fuzzy mean? What does no round brown mean? Stuff like that. So FGC Glossary, perfect for you. A frame trap, what is a frame trap? So, you know, Chrome, if you could just put like the link to the website like right here in the comments below, it's a big help. It'll teach you what you need to know about the lingo. The last tip I'm gonna give, I don't want to information overload you, is learn the mostly universal fighting game notation. Mitch, I believe is how you say this name, has a nice guide explaining what this means, right? Just look at the number pad on your keyboard. Don't want to go too into detail and confuse you, so I'll have this video in the description below. But if you want to learn the universal combo notation, or mostly universal combo notation used, this is a great video to teach you, because if somebody says, oh yeah, do 2S1 or do 2H, you're like, what does that mean? Well, that means down heavy. Now that I've taught you what you need to know to get out there and start playing some 2XKO, let me know how it goes for you. I hope I was able to explain everything in a concise, clear manner. I know it's kind of a lot, but at the same time, it's not too bad when you break it down into pieces. It's just like learning anything new. One step at a time, but now you can take those steps together with a friend if you so choose to. There'll be plenty of more videos coming soon, such as how to pick your character and character guides, so please look forward to those. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye!